Hi there. Are you one of those people who just can't bear the thought of spending several hundred or maybe even £1,000 on an orchestral sample library? Well, I've got a bit of a solution here for you that would be a really, really good starting point. It's the Berlin Free Orchestra, which I think is absolutely fantastic. It's the free version of the full Berlin Orchestra. So I think if you view it almost as a sort of taster of what the actual real Berlin Orchestra sounds like, it's a really, really good idea and a really, really good piece of software. So this is what it sounds like. This is a little track that I literally just written. I'm going to release a video in a week or so about how I did that, but have a listen. This is all the Berlin Free Orchestra, every single part of it. And for 45 minutes work and a free orchestra, I think that's actually not bad sounding at all. So let's open this up and see what it looks like. So you have to have the Sine player, which is a free player. Quite like it actually. I'm not an expert on it, but I think it's simpler to use than Contact, and probably on a par with the Spitfire downloader for what's the other one? Spitfire, the Abbey Road Orchestra, is it? Abbey Road? Yes, I think it probably is. So yeah, I mean, in terms of usability, I think everything's up here that you need. Your licenses that you can download and that store. You don't have to have like a separate downloader. This is totally free to download. And it comes in the 4 main sections of the orchestra: strings, woodwind, brass and percussion. Now, of course, you've got a limited amount of options here, but there's a fair amount in here. So there's a string ensemble, which is like the whole string section, shorts and longs. And I think this sounds pretty reasonable for a whole string ensemble, actually. Quite nice. Similarly, the sustains as well, I think work quite well. There's no legato though, obviously. You might get a better effect with the violins on their own for something like that. Let's just try sustains. That's nice, and you can hear it's recorded in the tail deck stage. It's got a really nice sort of surround sort of sound to it, and in terms of its reverb and the actual quality of the hall that it's in. And the violins come with sustained, spiccato, pizzicato, and tremolo. You've got quite a lot of articulations there, but no legato, and that's one of the drawbacks of this library. In most free libraries, you're not going to get a legato, so that's the smooth transition between individual notes, particularly with strings, because there's so much recording needed for that, because they when they're recorded, they record the sort of transitions between the notes. It's a huge amount of work and programming. However, rather brilliantly, in the solo violin, it does have a sustain and legato, and there's a solo cello with a sustain and legato as well, which I think for a free orchestra is absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. And you get a nice heart patch, but it's just a sustained heart patch as well, in the strings here. So my dog's trying to protect me from a very small grey car that's just pulled up in the cul-de-sac outside. She'll stop in a minute. So you've got the string ensemble, which is all the strings together, which I think is pretty convincing, and your individual strings of the section as well. Woodwinds. Again, same sort of thing. Woodwind ensemble. Fair old mixture here. There's a piccolo, flute, oboe, English horn or cor anglais, solo clarinet, bass clarinet, bassoon, solo contrabassoon. Brass, again, you've got the ensemble. This is what's really nice about this is we've got a solo French horn and a French horn section, similarly with the trumpet, solo trumpet and this trumpet section. Trombones as well. Trombones are 3, solo trombone. And then we've got a fair old mix of percussion. A sort of generic drum patch. Let's just find out what's on that for a minute. So you can see what I'm playing down here. Got some low drums, some snares, some toms. Nice toms. You hear that really nice recording space there again. Unpitched metals. I don't know what that is. Single hits. Let's try that. Oh, this is cymbals. Some nice cymbal crashers. It does lack a cymbal crescendo, that I think I'm right in saying. The Glock, vibraphone, marimba, xylophone, these are all nicely recorded. You can't really go wrong with them. They're relatively easy to record, and most libraries are going to have a really nice free sort of sound of those. Let's have a listen to what I did here for this track then. Well, I started off with just the spiccato strings, and I thought this was a really nice sound. It's quite bitey. It's quite bright. It's quite bitey. You get that really nice sort of tail, reverb tail from the hall. Works beautifully. And down the bottom as well. I brought the lower strings in the second half where it all gets a bit bigger. That's the ensemble strings. Okay, those lower strings are lacking some bite, and I did try it with the double bass patch itself, but it's just lacking a bit of bite and a bit of character. It's a free orchestra. I mean, in the main paid version, presumably there's different articulations, different lengths of shortness and attack, which might actually address that issue. But, you know, it's adequate. I decided to beef that up a little bit with some bass trombone. I actually used the ensemble patch. Again, it's just lacking a bit of bite, but it's a nice sound. And you can just about hear that. Now, actually, the start and end of that and the release sounds a bit synthy, to be honest, to me. But again, that might just be the free version. It might be better in the paid version. I doubled what the strings are doing with the trombones. This is quite nice and bitey. Might even work an octave higher, that actually, to make it a little bit sharper. Is that too high? That's better. And with the strings. And I doubled it on a tuba as well. The tuba, again, lacking in a bit of bite, but it adds something in there. Also in this sort of low area as well, I thought it'd be quite nice to have some timps in there. These are quite effective. Lacking a bit of welly, a bit of bite, you know, it's one sort of timp sound. Again, I think you're limited in the dynamic velocity layers here, but I think in the paid version possibly that's different, I don't know. So the whole backing then, we have what? Spiccato strings, low strings, got timps, bass trombones, sounds like this. Then I thought I'd add some woodwind over the top. Woodwind ensemble, quite convincing, quite like that. It's not so good higher up. And we also then added a cymbal, where we go up to this high thing. I did put a harp run in there, I think. Here we go. Let's see if we can have a listen to that. Have a listen to the harp. Yeah, that needs a bit more reverb on it or something, but the actual sound isn't bad. It does its job. Okay, other things then on top of this. Percussion, xylophone, very convincing. Again, it's very much in a hall. It's very much in a sort of symphonic hall sort of sound. I added tubular bells at the end just for a giggle. I'm not quite convinced about those. And I also added at the end just like a little piccolo flourish, which actually worked quite well. The piccolo up there sounds nice. That's pretty convincing. I like that. So the whole thing again then. Oh, there's a high string line as well, isn't there? Here. It's a little bit loud. Is that string ensemble or is that the actual violins? That's the sustains. That's nice. That's really nice. Okay, and the whole thing together. Yeah, you can hear the transitions. That's just a sustain rather than a legato. It's a nice sound. It would be more suited just to one long held sustain note, really. You need the legato to have the transition from one to other to make it sound convincing. But you know, you get that in the paid version, but not in the free. And I forgot, I added the trumpets in as well. Now I realised that the trumpets short, which is this, is really, really nice. That's really, really nice sound. Really, really love that. The sustains, not so good. So I ended up sort of, as you have to do, and I think this is one of the big lessons from this, you have to play, or you have to compose to the samples, if that makes sense. I knew that my short trumpet sound was good, but my long trumpet sound wasn't. So I'm not going to write a trumpet part that incorporates long sounds and hopes for the best. You know, I'm going to write to the short, good sounding samples. And I think I did that okay. It's reasonably convincing, but you know, there is a bit of compromise involved in that. Okay, so there we go. Downsides with it? Well, of course there's a downside. I mean, it is restrictors. You know, you haven't got all the articulations by any stretch of the imagination. I think probably I probably started off trying to write the wrong sort of track. I mean, the trumpets are nice and bright and good for this sort of track. The strings are. The timp doesn't really work. You know what I mean? It has, each instrument has a particular sound rather than a variety of sounds and articulations and dynamic layers. You are restricted. So probably more than I did when I started writing with this, because this is literally the first time I've opened this. You need to write to the samples and write to the sounds that you're hearing, and I don't know whether I necessarily did that when I wrote this, hence why it doesn't quite sound right, but it's not bad. Plus which I did it in 40 minutes or so. You know, it needs more time and tweaking. So that's the limitation of it, obviously. However, some of these samples are fantastic sounding. The trumpets are fantastic. The spiccato strings are great. The percussion sounds pretty good to me. The Glock is lovely. Not so sure about the tubular bells. The French horns, really, really, really great sounding French horns, I think. I really, really love that. Trombones, depending on what you're writing. Tuba, depending on what you're writing. You know, there are caveats, and you're not going to be able to produce something of a professional quality with this, he said, unless you really write to its strengths and you know it inside out, but not really, because I think you need more colour and you need more dynamic than I can get out of this. However, as a starting point, this is a fantastic Free Orchestra. I think the actual sound is great. I think the sound stage, the room is lovely. You hardly really need to use any extra reverb or anything. It all sounds really, really coherent. And it's like, well, let's try out the Berlin Orchestra for free rather than buying the full version and then deciding I don't, or do or don't like it. So the main competitor to this is the BBC Symphony Orchestra. I think I said Abbey Road earlier, didn't I, or something? It's the BBC Symphony Orchestra from Spitfire, and there is a Spitfire sort of equivalent of this. The Discovery version of the BBC, if I'm up to date on that, because I haven't looked at that for a while, is free. Also has a really nice layout that shows you where the instruments of the orchestra are. Now, I haven't played it for a long time, and I'm not going to put it on. I'm getting a new computer set up, which I'm doing here, and I'm not going to put it on it because I don't massively like it. However, I might be wrong on that. It might be fine. I might be forgetting. So if you are in the market for a free orchestra with a view to upgrading, I would absolutely download this, the Berlin Free Orchestra, and think, well, okay, do I need to upgrade to the full Berlin Orchestra and, really dive into the Orchestral Tools world? And I would also compare it with the BBC Symphony Orchestra free version as well, with a view to, well, do I, am I going to go down the BBC Symphony Orchestra route? And I think the Spitfire route, the BBC route, has a core version, then a professional version, whereas I think I'm right in saying that the Berlin Orchestra is just this and then the full thing. I know 2 or 3 extremely good composers who swear by the BBC, and I totally trust their judgment on that, that it is a great library. It's just the free version didn't particularly float my boat when I tried it. So I think either of these, it'll just depend on your particular what sort of sound you like, how it plays under your fingers, and it's like choosing a new car, isn't it? It's sort of what colour you like, and whether you like the interface, etc., etc. Right, I hope that was really helpful, and thank you for watching. Let me know if you tried this underneath. It'd be great to hear if anybody else has tried this, or if you've compared it with the BBC, which I think is the main competition of it. And thank you for watching, and hope to see you in another video soon. Thanks then, bye bye.